Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss Resurrection Series number 2, which I mistakenly thought one of the dolls from Series 12 was in this Resurrection Series. So that's why I kept putting it off. And as I was looking over the dolls, I realized, oh, that doll is not until Series 3. So that's why I'm doing today Series 2. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Series 2 of the Resurrection series debuted in 2008 at the San Diego Comic-Con. Now, with the success of the previous Resurrection series, Mezco increased the production run to 525 sets, and the dolls' variant sets were 75. I think 25 more than the 50 from the previous series. So on the chipboard, which is the same for all of them except for the different name of the character, it says limited edition 525 and Resurrection 2. Now, as I mentioned in my previous Resurrection video, the chipboard continues to tell a visual story. So this time, you see more of the doll that's emerging from the grave. If you remember from the first chipboard, it had just 2 little doll arms. Now you have a doll's head, okay, which I think is really cool. So the way I'm going to talk about the Resurrection dolls, I'm going to do from least interesting in terms of interpretation to the one that received the most glow up, so to speak. And that's how I'm going to discuss the characters. Now, I did put them in the order. I am going to discuss them because this is how they are displayed on my little display tower. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Resurrection Sadie. Now, Resurrection Sadie, just like the previous Series 1, which had Posey, continues one of the five dolls to be resurrected. So this year was Sadie's turn. Not much was improved upon of her outfit. As you can see, her OG doll next to her pretty much kept the same color scheme. However, unlike the OG Series 1, she does have that articulation. All dolls have it moving forward. Her dress, if you notice, has these little skull buttons, which are sewn. They are individually sewn onto the dress. They're not stuck on, so they are sewn to it. She has this cute little collar with a black lace detail, and she has detail on the cuffs and on the bottom of the dress. She still has the heterochromia eyes, one black, one blue. And she comes with her accessories. So, as you know, Sadie comes with the bouquet of flowers. She comes with the coffin purse and the knife. My little quibble with Sadie's accessories is that the original one came with a sulfur symbol on her coffin. And for some reason, they cheaped out on the Resurrection. Her knife is inside. And I don't understand why they cheaped out. I mean, if you didn't want to make it the same color, you could have made it a black and white cover of the coffin purse, you know, to differentiate between the OG. And that's about it. And again, you can't mess with perfection. And at the same time, it also is on the kind of dull side in comparison to her doll mates. For her, I paid $150, and she actually was from Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. Singapore or Hong Kong, I forgot. And that is with shipping included. So not a bad price that I paid, sealed in coffin. And she goes for about $180 to $200. So Series 2 didn't fetch as much passion as the first one. And I can see why, but at the same time, I think overall the series were good. This series was good. It was decent. So, yeah, I'm not sure why they weren't loved as much as the previous one. Now, the variant Sadie, which, funny story, I did have a chance to get variant Sadie for a bit below what usual sellers have been trying to sell her for. I just couldn't swing the payment option because it was from an international seller, international meaning Canada, and so I wasn't able to get her, and I'm a little sad about it, but I am happy to say that another fellow passionate collector, Michael Blackwell, aka Sir Pendragon, did get her. Very happy that a real collector got her, because I've also noticed that there are collectors who will buy these dolls who already have them just to turn it around and upsell them. And I was really hoping that wasn't the case. And when I found out he got it, I was very relieved. So if you're watching Sir Pendragon, congratulations. I can't wait for your video review. So anyway, here's a picture of the variant Sadie. Now, she is so cute. She actually looks a lot more like Wednesday Addams, which is a influence that Sadie has been compared to. And her red and black outfit is very reminiscent of, if you remember from my Series 5 video, she looks almost like the special one-of-a-kind handmade that the guys made when you found one of the bloody Series 5 dolls that were randomly inserted. And here's a picture if you need to be reminded. So I think it was a really neat homage to that piece of LDD history within that resurrection. And Sadie variant came with the same exact accessories, but they are red colored instead of black. So here's a picture of that. And she goes for an insane amount of money. I still see one or two of her still listed on a secondary market and still sitting there. And she, along with Lilith, in terms of their variants, they tend to fetch a lot of money. So, and with the previous resurrection, Sadie and company, the death certificates, they do come with same information, how they died, the date of the death, and yeah, and that's about it. That's the only variant that I do want from this series is Sadie, and hopefully one day I can get her, and that is Resurrection Sadie. Next up is Lulu. Now Lulu, of the Resurrection series, I believe she was my first that I bought. I got her for a really good deal. And I just thought she was so cute with her roller skates, which, again, I'm a fan of a roller skate doll. But, you know, over the years, I have changed my mind about her. And there are things about Lulu, the Resurrection, that I thought was a bit disappointing that she didn't come with that her original doll did. Like, for example, her original doll has piercings. She has actual earrings. She does not. She has that funky bone compound fracture out of her leg. Really cool detail. She doesn't have that. And I think the worst thing for her to be missing, which I thought was so disappointing, because I thought it was underneath her sleeve, but it's not, is her cool tattoo. Even her fashion victim has tattoos on both arms. And I was really bummed that she didn't have the tattoo. I actually thought it was underneath her sleeve, and it's not. So, in essence, she does retain Lulu in terms of the hair, the skates, but she's a bit of a downgrade from the OG, in my opinion. I think the OG is a better version of the character because of these quirky elements she has that this one doesn't. Now, in terms of like the face, she actually has the similar eyes, which they were able to recreate in glass eye form. And she has bruisings on her face, very similar to her. So, you know, she does have Lulu's some of her attributes, but I feel like it's a more cleaner version. I think the reason why she doesn't have the compound fracture on her leg is, if you haven't noticed or recognized this type of styling, she's actually a roller derby player in this outfit. So I guess she's causing the broken bones and the fractures. I guess you could look at it that way. She does come with these elbow pads and knee pads. Gotta be safe. And her helmet, which has the sulfur symbol in pink. The stock photo on Mezco's site, for some reason, doesn't have the sulfur. So I think that was just a prototype and not the final product. So she does have this sulfur symbol. It's supposed to be there. So the picture, and that's what you're going to find if you ever look up information of the dolls, especially when it comes to like accessories. Sometimes they'll use photos of the prototypes instead of the final doll product. And there's going to be some dolls that I talk about in my series and Resurrection that there are very noticeable differences between what's posted in the picture to the final product. So just keep that in mind. So she does have a sulfur symbol. Her variant is really cute. Here's a picture of it. She's just the inverse in terms of the color scheme. Like, she has the black hair. Not really desiring her. I think this one is fine enough for me. But in terms of the secondary market, they don't come up a lot because, as you know, as I stated already, it's 1 out of 75. So they're very, very rare do they come up. And so when I was researching her variant, there was one that sold a year ago in the fall of 2025 for, hold on, $450. So again, not as crazy as Resurrection variant Sybil or Posey, so kind of on the affordable side in the grand scheme of things, but that was it. That was the only one I found on a sold listing on eBay. And she does come with skates that sometimes the wheels, again, do come off. But someone commented on the Wikipedia page for Living Dead Dolls that they're meant to come off to make it for easy display. Because with the wheels, as you can see with my Lulu, she has a stand, because that's the only way I can have her on the shelf without rolling off the shelf. And same thing with her. I keep her on a stand because of the wheels. And that is Resurrection Lulu. Next up is Resurrection Lou. So Lou Sapphire, he's my favorite boy doll, number 2. And the reason why I love the original Lou Sapphire is because he was a devil character, but he was more of an incognito devil character. That's what I liked about him, that it wasn't so obvious. But with the Resurrection, I actually think it's another great design of him. But I also felt it was very simplistic in comparison. But even with the simplicity, he does look adorable with his outfit. I mean, look at this little onesie. He looks so cute. Like, I know he's the Prince of Darkness, but man, isn't he a cute Prince of Darkness? It's so cute. He actually reminds me of an old school devil costumes from back in the day that kids wear. Actually, he reminds me, if you of a particular age, if you remember the movie Problem Child, and it just real quick synopsis, it's about this kid that is a terror, and I believe in the first movie, he had this devil costume and he had like this little painted on mustache. And if you look at Lou's face, it kind of looks like a little bit of a half mustache, which I thought was really cute. And his eyes are really cool too. Very similar to his original. And, you know, again, it is a little bit of a downgrade in terms of the outfit. I really loved his outfit, but the onesie is really cute. It's an inspired choice. So, like Lulu, he is missing certain things from his original character design, but at the same time, they did give him new features. One of them being the pitchfork. And, again, I don't know why they don't like this cane. Even with the Return of the Living Dead dolls, they didn't revisit this cane. And I'm like, why? Why not? So I still love the cane. But he has a pitchfork, which is very similar to Sin's pitchfork. He's missing the pinky ring. So he doesn't have that. But he has this medallion that's been used on Walpurgis. And he comes with this gnarly mask, which has been used a lot, including with Walpurgis. So you have that. So, he's not a bad doll. Actually, I still think he's better than Lulu and Sadie in terms of kind of, he's a downgrade in terms of the outfit, but he is elevated in terms of the things they switched out his accessories for. And again, he's very cute. I love his little onesie, and he stands very well for a doll with no shoes, which a lot of my dolls, like Purdy, for example, I can't stand her without a stand. So he stands very well. And he comes with a tail that's like a velvet material, and his horns are flocked. He doesn't have the great slicked back hair as his original, so it's a flocked hair, which I'm not going to pull off the hoodie because that's going to be a pain to put back. But he's really cute. I paid for him, I think I paid a little more for him at, hold on. So I paid $220 for him. Now I got him much later than these two girls. Actually, him and Lilith, who I get to in a moment, they came much later. Because when it came to the Resurrection series, I did want to complete them, but I was hopping around. Basically, whichever I found, I basically bought the ones that I liked right away. And I realized certain series I had completed. And, when you look at the other dolls without their doll mates from their series, it looked kind of empty. And, I was like, why not? Especially with Lou, considering he was my favorite boy doll. I was thinking, why not get his Resurrection as well? So I did. His variant, though, is very impressive. So here's a picture of that. Now, again, not a lot of money as Sadie, for example. But in terms of like what they did with him, they really pulled out all the stops for his variant. As you could see in the picture, he comes with a cape, and the cape looks like there's flames. He comes with a mask that's more bloody than the one that he comes with in the regular version. And his outfit is different. He has more of a gown instead of the footsie pajamas. And 1 year ago, the only listing I found, the variant sold for $350. So not bad. And again, very hard to come by. So if you want his variant, be patient, keep looking, and maybe you'll luck out and get a decent deal on him. And that is Lou Sapphire. Now, the best doll of Series 2 Resurrection, I have to give it to Lilith, a doll that wasn't my favorite character. She was on my worst Living Dead dolls. But again, I I say it very lightheartedly because, again, with Living Dead dolls, it's really hard to find a bad doll. But yeah, Lilith was one of those dolls not a fan of. But in terms of her resurrection, like Lou, they pulled out all the stops. She is a great doll. So they definitely changed her up from her previous incarnation. They really play up to the mythology of Lilith as her being the queen of hell, which is curious that her and Lucifer, the king of hell, if you will, Satan, and the fact that they had the two of them together in the same series was pretty curious that they actually had a similar theme, two dolls having a similar theme. And series 3 will have Resurrection Sin, which I read somewhere that it was curious that Sadie and Sin, that they could have swapped those two out. But I guess, keep hitting the theme of hell on the nose, it might have, seemed kind of tired. So I guess they changed it up a bit, just having these two, and then you had Sin in series 3. Now, what I think is cool about Lilith, again, she has these amazing wings. She has these curiously long arms, which is very similar to Nosferatu, the first Nosferatu doll. Okay, and so she has very similar arms to his. See the long clawed hands. Okay, and another thing about Lilith is that she has these little pointy ears. Now, it looks like they made a whole new mold for her with these ears. You see? It's very clean. It's seamless. It's part of the head sculpt. Whereas Nosferatu, it seems like it was glued separately from the mold. It's not part of the mold. And one other vampire doll, Desmodus from series 21, has the same mold and same ear. Okay? And with Lilith, her eyes are really intense. You can barely see her pupils. She also has a similar teeth, like Nosferatu. Same dentist. There you go. And, like I said, they really just went out for her. She kept the same witchy boots. And her dress has a little bit of that velvet material that's in her original. And like I said, I think it's a great improvement of the original doll. And again, I didn't pay too much for her. I paid for her, and she was the last one that I was able to get. She was $134 open. And I got her from Macari. And her regular version goes for $100 to $300. Now, I also wanted to talk about Lilith last because she has a variant. Here's a picture of the variant. Now, her variant is one of very few LDDs that have been recreated unofficially as a bootleg. So there is a bootleg of the variant Lilith doll. Here's a picture of that variant. Now, as you could see, it's a completely different face from the variant. So definitely be careful if you see someone selling Lilith variant and it's like $60 to $100. That is the bootleg, my friend. Please do not fall for that. Your best source of resource in terms of pictures of what a doll looks like is definitely visit Mezco.com. Go to Living Dead Dolls under the archives, and you can see all the dolls they have, the series, the presents, the resurrections, the sub-series. You can see all the dolls that they've made, so you can compare those photos. But the chipmunk cheeks, that's a definitely telltale sign of the fake Lilith. Also, if you notice, her arms are short in the picture, and her teeth are way different than the variant. And the variant Lilith is glow in the dark, which is very similar to her baby doll that was sold in Comic-Con, the variant baby doll, you know, in the red dress. So that's where her variant red dress comes from. It's an homage to that baby doll variant. And again, I researched the price for her variant, and it's sold for $350. Again, not terrible. So if you really want her, you know, by all means, wait. And who knows, she might come around again. And like I said, she's a really cool doll. I really like her design. And, you know, it just took me a while to get her because, again, I was debating of completing certain series, Resurrection series. And I was like, you know what? Why not? You know, I already have 3 of them. I might as well complete it with Lilith. And I'm glad I did. And the only quibble I have with her is her hair is not as nice as her OG. Like, her OG is very thick and long. Hers is very choppy, very short. It's a little thinly rooted. But other than that, I mean, it's barely noticeable. I mean, look at these wings, which are the same wings as Inferno. And like I said, be careful if you're looking for that variant. Just please look at those pictures very carefully. And if the price is too good to be true, that's because it is. And that is Resurrection Lilith. And there you have it. That is the complete regular Series 1 Resurrection dolls. And not a bad series, but, you know, in comparison to the first, you know, some of the dolls are a mixed bag in terms of, you know, in terms of how much they elevate or detract from the OG designs. And I think Series 2 had a good mix of it, but, you know, not as solid as the first series. And like I said, do your research, shop around, and please be careful with Resurrection variant Lilith. And thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned. I will go back to doing Series 12, and after a couple of series videos, I'll finally get around to doing Series 3, which will have the Series 12 doll that was resurrected in that series. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe so you can be notified of new Living Dead doll conversations. So, happy hunting, and thanks for watching.